no man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. I'll read that again. No man shall be able to stand before who? You. All the days of whose life? Your life. Here's the fourth shift in expectation. Expect to know more about yourself than you ever known before. Expect to know more about yourself than you've ever known before. What is God saying here? Sometimes you don't know you're a fighter until God forces you to fight. Some of you don't know how creative you are until you're forced to be creative. How do I know? Sometimes you don't know how creative you are until the money dries up. And the kids ask you what's for dinner. And you walk in the pantry and you say, Lord, what am I going to do? And then God's creative juices in you begin to flow. And then you find yourself starting pulling spaghetti sticks over here. You're pulling sauce from over there. Oh, I've just remembered I got some leftover ground turkey in there. And before you know it, you got a meal. God sometimes has to force the creativity out of you. Sometimes you don't know what you got or don't know about yourself until you're forced to know. And then you're wondering, what am I going to eat for lunch? And then you realize I got some luncheon meat in there. I got a piece of cheese and I got a piece of bread. Put that piece of bread on the side. Put the luncheon meat on a pan. Put a little grease on the pan. Put the cheese on top of the little piece of meat. Let it rise up a little bit. Cut it in the middle. Slit it down. Put it on a piece of bread and call it a meal. Sometimes you don't know much about yourself until you're forced to find out. Good God Almighty. God needs somebody to understand. I sometimes allow things to happen so that I can show you what I already know about you. Sometimes I got to allow things to happen so that I can prove to you that you are more than just a survivor. You're more than a conqueror. Sometimes I got to allow things to happen to force you to a place so that you can realize I'm stronger than I realized. I can make it because God is with me. I didn't realize I was this tough until I had to be in a situation where I had to be tough. Someone say, I got to shift my expectations. And here's the thing. God expects you to succeed. Why shouldn't you expect yourself to succeed? God expects you to win. You ought to expect to win out of yourself. The problem with some of us is this. God has a great expectation of us, but we have very low expectations of ourselves. God believes we can do it, but many of us don't believe we can. God says we're victorious, but many of us still act like the victim. God says we can win, and many of us act like we're already losers. God says we're ahead and not the tail, and many of us still acting like the tail. God says we're above only and not beneath us. Many of us are looking up when we should be looking down. So shift your expectations. Raise your level of expectation in yourself. Because if God says it's possible, then you ought to believe it's possible yourself. He says in verse 5, no man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you nor forsake you. I will not leave you nor forsake you. That's a shout right there. I will not leave you nor forsake you. I was with Moses. I'm going to be with you. I was with your mama. I'm going to be with you. I was with your grandmama. I'm going to be with you. I was there for your daddy. I'm going to be there for you. I was there for you like I was there for them. And just like I'm there for you, I'm going to be there for your children. And I'm going to be there for your children's children. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Here's the fifth shift in expectation. Expect to know more about God than you've ever known before. Expect to know more about God than you've ever known before. You know, we put God in a box. And the box that we put God in is, for some of us, all we know God is as a provider. and our prayers reflect it. God, you know what I need. God, you know I need that bill paid. Jehovah Jireh. That's the only way some of us know God. And God said, I need you to shift your expectations and know me on different levels. Some of us, all we know God is as a healer. Because all I think about is my pain and the sickness that I'm dealing with. And God says, I'm so much more than just a healer. If I can get you to shift your expectations to look at me beyond just a healer, you find I'm a healer, I'm a provider, I'm a protector, I'm your banner, I'm your sword, I'm your shield, I'm all that and then some. I am that I am. God says all you need to do is just fill out the blank. And God says whatever the blank is in your life, I can be that in your life. But you've got to raise your level of expectation and believe more from me than just being a provider and just a healer. God says he tells his people in verse 5, no man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will not leave you nor forsake you. God wants somebody to know that you've got to stop looking at this enormous God that he is with little expectations. God's this ginormous God. Is that a word? Ginormous? It is today, right? He's a ginormous God. And we go to this ginormous God with small requests. We go to this huge God with small prayers. What's a small prayer? Doesn't mean your prayer doesn't matter. A small prayer is, God, I just need to make it through today. No, God says, I'm too great a God for you to be praying small things. God, just put gas in my car. No, don't just put gas in my car. I want to own the car with no note. And I want to be able to put gas on the car whenever I get ready. We serve a great God, and too many of us are going to God, this great God, with low expectations. Why can't you stop praying for an apartment? Pray for a house. Stop praying for a job and pray to be the job creator. Stop praying for just enough. Pray for more than enough. And there's nothing wrong with you asking for more than enough. If your heart is right with God, God will bless you with more than enough so that you can be the blessing he created you to be. I got to tell you, I can't tell y'all everything, but there's some things I've been looking at that don't make sense. There's some things that I'm looking at that I'm believing God for that right now wouldn't make sense for me to be looking at. But I'm believing God because God has given me a great expectation. And because he's a great God, I'm going to believe for it, because if he put the desire in me, there's got to be a reason why he did it. So I'm going to ask him for it until I get it. And when I get it, I know he'll have a purpose for it. So why not ask for it now, even though it doesn't make sense? He tells these children of his, every place that the sole of your feet tread upon, I'm giving to you. Catch this now. I promised your forefather, Abraham, that if you see it, you could have it. I'm promising you, if you walk on it, you can have it. God is telling somebody today, you need to get up tomorrow morning with a new purpose. And you need to start walking on the things you're believing God for. You want that business? Go walk on the property. You want that house? Go walk in the house. Start telling God where you want to put the sofa. Start telling God you want the flat screen on this wall. Start telling God where you want this and where you want that. Walk on what you're believing God for. And God says when you start walking on it, you'll start believing for it. When you start touching it, it becomes a reality in your life. When you start trusting me, God says I'll start doing things that you've never expected. You got to know that's how we got in this building. Years ago, the man of God that owned this property called looking for me. We were in Hastings Bridge. He said, Pastor, I need to meet with you. At the time, I didn't know how it was all going to work out, but I met with the man, and he began to walk us around this building. We walked through the sanctuary. We walked down the hallway. In every room, we walked around the property. This was 3.5 years ago. I didn't know how God was going to work it out, but it wasn't for me to figure out. It was just for me to trust God. But when you walk on something, trusting and believing God, God says, I will make it happen in your life. You're sitting here because I walked on it. You're praising here because I walked on it. You're worshiping here because I walked on it. You're giving God glory because I walked on it. And God needs somebody today to start walking because somebody else needs you to walk, because when you walk on it, you're going to help them reach their destiny. When you walk on it, you're going to help them realize their dreams. You need to walk on it so that somebody else can have what God is promising them. If I didn't walk on it, souls wouldn't be getting saved right now. If I hadn't walked on it, people wouldn't be getting delivered right now. If I hadn't walked on it, people wouldn't get what they need from God. It says in verse number 5, no man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. Help somebody. There were other folks that wanted this property. But when God sent you, no man shall stand before you. There were other folks that wanted to buy it. But what God got for you, no man shall be able to stand before you. Catch what he said, though. No man shall be able to stand before you, not just one day, not just 1 week, all the days of your life. When you're walking in the promises of God, God will not let a man stop you what he's promised you. He says, no man shall be able to stand before you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. He's dead. But the same God that was with him is now with you. He's done his time. Now it's your time. Oh, you missed it. He had his moment. Now it's time for you to have your moment. He had his season. Now it's time for your season. That's a shout right there. Because some of you just shifted into your season. You just walked into your season. I'm already excited about next week because God's word next week is shift into your favor. God says there's favor all over you, and I'm trying to shift you into your favor. And you got to know that when favor is with you, no man can stop you. When favor is with you, no bank can hold you up. When favor is with you, God says it will happen in your life. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If you believe that, give God a shout up in this place. If you believe God is walking with you, give God a praise up in this place. If you believe you just shifted into your atmosphere, give God the glory up in this place. Shift your expectation. I will not leave you nor forsake you. Closing, I'm done, I'm closing. He said that for a reason. He said, I will not leave you nor forsake you. You know why he said that? Because he knows as the children are walking out what he promised, it's going to be hard. He never not once said it was going to be easy. But he said, even in the hardest of times, I'm going to be with you. When it gets difficult, I won't turn my back on you, even though you may turn your back on me. God says that when it gets difficult, and when you get weak, that's when you'll know how strong I am. God needs you to shift your expectations. Bury those low expectations and resuscitate those great expectations. Because God's too great a God for you to be believing for small things. Believe for much greater. And watch God do it in your life. Shift your expectations. Let's give God some praise in this place today. How many feel a shift taking place?